My dad regifted my birthday present to my sister, still in the box, with my name on the card, right in front of me. Mom said, "You're 30. Birthdays don't matter." I smiled left. That night, I withdrew the Spain trip I'd booked for their 40th anniversary, $18,000. When the confirmation cancellation arrived in their email, Dad held up the box so everyone could see it. Same silver wrapping paper Mom always used. Same curly ribbon, same tiny white envelope taped to the top with my name in her handwriting. "Okay, birthday boy," he said, "but I think Emma should open this one." He put the box in my younger sister's lap. I actually laughed at first. I thought it was one of those family prank things. I was turning 30. We just finished lasagna at my parents' house, and everyone was squeezed into the living room. Balloons, store-bought cake, a 30 candle that sagged to one side. Emma looked between us, already grinning. "Seriously, me?" Mom waved a hand. "Go on, honey. It's from us. You'll see why." I watched Emma peel off the envelope. She didn't even read it. She just tore the flap, and my own name flashed at me for half a second. "To Alex, happy 30th. We are so proud of you." My stomach dropped. Emma ripped the paper, opened the box, and gave a scream. "Oh my God. No way. No way." She pulled out a key fob. The Toyota logo shined under the lamp. Dad did this little mock surprised face. "Well, guess you're the one who's getting a car tonight." Everyone laughed. Everyone except me. I stared at the card now half crumpled on the floor beside Emma's feet. My name was still written there in thick blue ink. "Wait," I said, and my voice sounded off too flat. I thought that was Mom cut in smoothly. "Alex, sweetheart, you already have a car. It runs. Emma's been taking the bus at night. You know how dangerous that is." Emma jumped up, hugging Dad. "I can't believe you got me a car. I thought this was for Alex." Dad chuckled. "It was going to be for him, but we talked and decided you needed it more right now. He understands. He's always been the responsible one." Everyone looked at me like I was supposed to nod on cue. I opened my mouth, closed it again. My cheeks burned so hot I could feel my pulse in them. Mom rolled her eyes when she saw my face. "Oh, come on. You're 30, Alex. Birthdays don't matter anymore. You know that you don't need presents. You have a good job, your own place, your own car. This is about helping your sister get on her feet." Emma, still clutching the keys, tried a guilty smile. "Thanks, big bro. You know I love you, right?" I swallowed whatever was in my throat. "Sure. Yeah. Congrats," I said. My dad clapped me on the shoulder hard. "That's my guy. Always thinking of family." An hour later, I drove home in my 12-year-old Honda, the same one I'd bought used in college, and kept alive with YouTube tutorials and junkyard parts. My hands shook on the steering wheel the whole way. When I got to my apartment, I didn't cry. I didn't rant. I didn't call anyone. I opened my laptop, logged into my email, and pulled up the confirmation from the travel agency. Spain 40th anniversary trip. James and Carol Parker. Total $18,047. And 62. Non-refundable after next week. Fully refundable tonight. I hovered over the cancel booking button for maybe 10 seconds. Then I clicked. As the cancellation confirmation hit my inbox, I stared at the subject line. "Your trip to Spain has been canceled. Full refund processed. I'm Alex, 30 years old, software engineer, single, no kids." And that moment wasn't about a car or a trip. It was about finally understanding something I'd been refusing to see my entire life. This wasn't the first time I'd been treated like the family's wallet. It was just the first time I hit cancel. Growing up, the roles were almost a joke. I was the easy one, the grown-up kid, the little adult. Emma was the baby, our princess, just a free spirit. I'm 2 years older than her. It doesn't sound like much, but in our house, it might as well have been a decade. From as early as I can remember, the expectations were split down the middle. If I forgot to unload the dishwasher, it was a lecture about responsibility and how will you survive when you move out. If Emma forgot, Mom would chuckle. "She's just tired. She had a long day at school." At 12, I had a weekend paper route and was saving for my first gaming console. At 12, Emma got a brand new tablet to help with homework. At 16, I got a handshake and the car keys to Dad's old Civic with 180,000 M on it, plus a list of rules. I paid my own gas, my own insurance, and half the maintenance because you want independence, you pay for independence. At 16, Emma got a lightly used Corolla they financed for her, complete with a ribbon on the hood and an Instagram photo shoot in the driveway. Dad bragged to the neighbors about doing right by his girl. When college came, it got clearer. I wanted to go out of state. Money was tight, Dad said. He sat me down at the kitchen table with a printed spreadsheet. Look, son, we can afford to chip in a little, but you're smart. You can get scholarships, loans. We'll pay your phone and health insurance, but tuition's on you. We have to save for Emma, too, you know. So, I went to a state school, worked 20 hours a week in the campus computer lab, took out $28,000 in federal loans, and another $8,000 in a private one my last year. Every time I bought groceries, I did the mental math of interest rates. 2 years later, when it was Emma's turn, suddenly the story changed. She's not like you, Mom told me over the phone. She's not as practical. She needs a good school to thrive. They pulled from a small inheritance from my grandfather that I vaguely remembered being for both kids someday, and used almost all of it to pay Emma's first 2 years at a private university. I found out by accident when Emma posted a picture of her campus with the caption, "Grateful for parents who make dreams come true. Debt-free baby." I stared at that caption for a long time. Every time I brought up the difference, Mom always had an explanation. "We helped you in other ways. You never asked directly. You're the one who wanted to move out so early. You're just more independent." She always said that like it was a compliment. After college, I moved 2 hours away, landed my first real IT job at $52,000 a year, and learned how to stretch every paycheck. Rent, loans, groceries, gas, internet. I lived with plastic plates for 2 years because I refused to carry a balance on my credit card. Meanwhile, Emma flunked a couple of classes, changed majors twice, wrecked the Corolla in a late-night fender bender, and moved back home to reset. Guess who helped pay the insurance deductible? Just this once, Mom said, calling me in tears because they didn't have the money right now. I wired them $600 that week. That became a pattern. $200 for a surprise medical bill. $150 because the gas bill was short. $300 for Emma's laptop when hers just died. Always temporary. Always framed as family helping family. "Once we get through this rough patch, we'll pay you back," Dad promised over and over. They never did. By the time I turned 27, my salary had climbed to $90,000. I'd moved into a one-bedroom apartment with real furniture and a decent TV. I still paid my student loans on time. Still drove my old Honda, held together by pure stubbornness. Mom loved bragging to her friends that Alex was doing so well, that I was so successful, that they'd raised me right. But whenever money came up, the message was simple and ugly. "You're okay." "She's not. You have to help." That's what good sons do. I stayed connected because they were my parents. Because cutting them off over money felt monstrous. Because under all the guilt and resentment, I did love them. I knew they'd worked hard. We'd never been rich. I remember Dad coming home exhausted from the factory, Mom constantly juggling side gigs. It made it far too easy to justify every new request. By the time I hit 30, I wasn't just the responsible one anymore. I was the fixer, the family tech support, and most importantly, the walking emergency fund. Once my job was stable, the amounts got bigger. The first major one was the roof. I was 28, sitting in my office cubicle, when Mom called crying. "Alex, honey, the roof is leaking. There's water in the hallway. The guy says it'll be 4, maybe 5,000. We don't have that kind of money. If we wait, it could collapse. You know how your dad's back is." The guilt hit me instantly. The house I grew up in falling apart. I opened my budgeting spreadsheet and stared at the numbers. $12,000 in savings. $4,200 emergency fund. I'd been dreaming about finally upgrading my car. "How much exactly?" I asked. She sniffed and said the estimate was $4,800, but maybe they could cover some of it by skipping bills. Dad took the phone. "Son, if you can lend it to us, we'll set up a real payment plan. We'll make it right this time." I wired them $3,800 the next day so they could meet the roofer halfway. For 6 months, I got $100 a month back. Then the payments quietly stopped. Every time I brought it up, there was another crisis. The car needed tires. Hours got cut. Emma was struggling. They had to help with her rent. Eventually, I stopped asking. Chasing my own parents for money felt petty, even though I knew I'd never see it again. Then there was the dental bill. Emma cracked a tooth. No insurance. A sudden $2,200 bill. "She's in pain," Mom said. "You know how dangerous dental infections can be." I put it on my credit card and paid it off slowly, watching interest eat away at my future. In the family group chat, Dad sent a selfie of Emma giving a thumbs up in the dentist chair. "Emma's angel big brother saves the day again," he wrote. Everyone reacted with hearts. Emma texted me privately, swearing she'd pay me back when she got a real job. She never did. At 29, I got promoted to senior engineer, $120,000 a year plus bonus. For once, I wanted to do something meaningful that wasn't just fixing emergencies. Mom had always talked about Spain. Her parents were from a small village outside Valencia she'd never visited. They used to joke about celebrating their 40th anniversary properly in Europe. So I planned it. I opened a separate savings account and put aside $800 a month. After 14 months, I had $18,000. Enough for business class flights, 12 nights in Spain, good hotels, trains between cities, and a nice anniversary dinner by the coast. I called a travel agent instead of booking online because I didn't want to mess it up. She walked me through everything. Round trip from Chicago to Madrid, June 12th to 24th, business class, transfers included, a 10-day guided tour with 3 free days at the end. Total cost, $17,420.87, taxes and fees included. I added trip insurance, full refund up to 7 days before departure. When the charge hit my account, it felt like a small earthquake. But I was excited. For once, my money was going towards something joyful instead of another crisis. I kept it secret for months. When Mom complained about bills, I bit my tongue. When Emma posted about needing a miracle to pay for another certification, I didn't offer help. "I'm focusing on something else right now," I told myself. Meanwhile, the pattern at home kept going. One night, I came over for dinner and heard my name mid-rant. Emma was complaining that I made 6 figures and acted like she was asking for a kidney when she needed help with rent. Mom agreed, saying I hated feeling needed and that money only mattered to me when I gave it on my terms. I stood in the hallway listening until Dad noticed me and invited me in like nothing happened. At dinner, Emma casually mentioned needing a reliable car for interviews. Dad joked that maybe for my 30th birthday, they could finally do something special for me and get me safer wheels. Mom smiled and said I deserved it. It was the first time they'd ever offered me something big. I tried not to get my hopes up. I failed. Over the next month, Dad and I talked about car models. He said it would be a surprise. At the same time, I kept planning the Spain trip, carefully thinking about my parents' needs and timing the reveal for my birthday. On my birthday night, I parked behind a shiny white Corolla I didn't recognize. Inside, everything felt normal until Dad handed a silver box. Not to me, but to Emma. The keys were for her. Dad explained she needed the car more. Mom added that I was 30 and birthdays didn't matter anymore. Emma hugged me and joked about sharing the car. Everyone laughed except me. Driving home in my rattling Honda, I knew there would be no Spain reveal. They'd made it clear how they valued my sacrifices. Later that night, I sat at my kitchen table and reread the Spain itinerary. I realized I was about to spend $18,000 on a celebration where I'd still be treated like an afterthought. That I logged into the travel portal, saw I was still within the full refund window, and clicked cancel. The confirmation came through moments later. The refund was going back to my card. Everything was in my name. At least I'd been careful about that. Then I did something I'd never done before. I opened my banking app and removed my parents from my frequent transfers. I canceled the $400 monthly payment I'd set up when Dad's hours were cut. One by one, I shut down every quiet leak, emergency transfers, family subscriptions on my card, the shared phone plan. In 20 minutes, I untangled 3 years of financial dependence. Each click felt like setting down a weight I'd been carrying for so long I forgot it hurt. Then I wrote a short email. I told my parents I'd canceled the Spain trip and that the refund was coming back to me. I explained that we clearly saw support and gifts differently, and I wasn't comfortable continuing to make big financial gestures while my needs and boundaries were treated as less important. I said this wasn't punishment, I wasn't asking for anything back, but I was done being the default provider. Going forward, I wouldn't be helping with bills, emergencies, or large purchases. I told them I loved them, but I needed space. I read it 3 times, then sent it. That night, I slept better than I had in years. The next day, my phone exploded. Missed calls, texts, and accusations in the family group chat. I replied once, calmly, saying I canceled a trip I paid for after realizing I wasn't willing to sacrifice for people who didn't value my needs. I muted the chat. Over the following weeks, Mom cycled through anger, guilt, and martyrdom. I answered once more, saying I was open to a relationship, but not one where I was their safety net. I started therapy a month later. By summer, when they were supposed to be in Spain, my refund had already cleared. I used part of it as a down payment on a quiet, reliable used hybrid. Signing the papers alone felt right. No speeches, no expectations. 6 months later, Mom called. They'd taken a cheap bus trip instead. Money had been tight. Emma had moved out and was paying her own rent. After a long pause, Mom admitted she hadn't realized how much they leaned on me until I stopped. I told her my door was open, but my wallet wasn't. That wouldn't change. A year later, my life is smaller but better balanced. I see my parents occasionally, we meet at restaurants, and everyone pays their own way. If money comes up, I shut it down. Emma and I text sometimes. She hasn't asked me for money since. Last month, I finally used part of that Spain budget for myself. A simple week in Valencia. Sitting alone at dinner one night, I felt a little sad about the trip that never was, but mostly I felt something new and steady. Peace. I learned that if you let people treat you like an endless resource, they will, not out of cruelty, but convenience. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop funding a system built on your silence. My parents may not care about birthdays anymore, but my boundaries matter. And now, I act like they do.